They say a journey of 1,000 miles, or 2,000 in my case, begins with one step. Because of the reverence that I hold for these Ultra Lone Peak 6s, they will take the first steps. I will probably wear these for maybe only about 100 miles, maybe get into the Smokies, I don't know, maybe get a little further, but then I'm going to trade them out for my next best thing, which is my Topos. And my Topos, I think these are called the Terra Venture. I haven't really worn them much, but I'm going to wear them on the AT. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about all of the different items that I'm going to be using on my Appalachian Trail thru hike. So we're just going to kind of walk through these, right? I have my Topo Terra Ventures, as I've already mentioned. They are a trail runner and they are a low profile. I believe it's a 3-degree drop, wide toe box. I really like that. And they've got some good grip on the bottom. And after looking at the grip on the bottom, they're a lot better than my Ultra Lone Peak 6s, but I do believe they deserve a small chance at the beginning. We'll see how it goes. Then I have some Injinji sock liners. I've been wearing these quite a bit, so they're a little smelly right now, but they're going to be my underlayer as far as the socks go. And then I do have the Darn Tough socks, and these are a mid-weight sock. I can't really use anything more than a mid-weight sock because it's just too heavy on my feet. And I've hiked up in the White Mountains and the Lakes region in New Hampshire, and I find that these are plenty warm, down to about 15 degrees, which is the lowest I've tried them, but my feet were fine. The next would be my base layer, my underwear. Woo! Which is just, those are and ones, if you can get them at Walmart. And then I have a nice thin poly layer, which I was going to go with the wool, but these are a little lighter and plenty warm for what I've got going on and my tolerance to temperatures, I guess. My bottom layer, which is my old nylon running pants, and they have done the trick. These are not for inclement weather or super windy days. I do have the Precips, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And then my old standby, my Smart Wool top. I believe this is Smart Wool. It's a Smart Wool top. It's very thin. It's very breathable. It does a really good job of keeping me warm on a very cold day. And it's got a hood. I find that I can use this as just a base layer. If you've seen any of my other videos, you see that I'm able to hike 30 degrees with just this on my top. I am still a little burly as far as weight goes. So as the trail goes on and I lose more weight, then I might have to add a second layer because I might get a little cold. I do have the Mountain Smith Dolomite retractable trekking poles. They pop out. I do still have the basket on this one because we're hiking and it's snowy where I'm at. I may or may not keep the basket on that. It has a nice cork handle and I am able to hold it nicely. I like these. They're not the lightest on the market, but they're very durable, and these are going to be what's holding up my Durston X-Mid Pro 2, which we'll talk about in a moment. The next up would be my top layers. My tops, I have, like I said, I have this, but then I also have a few other layers that I'm going to talk about. Get rid of those Ultras. This is my raincoat. It is a Marmot Precip. It's a lightweight raincoat. It's a little stiff, but I hiked in it last week, and it did the trick in the rain. It kept me dry. Um, it's not the most expensive one. It was about $90, I believe. It does have a nice hood, and this actually keeps the rain off my face because it is basically big enough to kind of cover up, and it drips perfectly off my face. So that's my rain layer. Then I have another Marmot product. This is my fleece layer, and this is a medium, but it's just a lightweight fleece, and it's a full zip, which I wanted the full zip instead of the quarter zip because it's just more variability. I didn't want to have to take the fleece off of my head every time I took it on and off. And then I do have my puffy jacket. This is my Decathlon 4-class. It's the one that Dan Becker promoted quite a bit. I bought it. It is down, so I'm going to try to keep this for camp and sleeping. If in a pinch it's a dry day, I can use, but a very cold day, then I will use this to hike in. I prefer not to, but if it's a matter of life and death while I'm hiking, I'll wear this. But again, I'm able to get down to about 10, 15, 20 degrees with just one or two layers. So I don't find that this is going to, that I'm going to have to be wearing this while hiking. I do have another option. It is the green one that I got actually from Kohl's, and that is a synthetic puffy. And if I need to, or if I feel like I have to hike more often with the puffy, I might take that one instead, or at least change that out um, fairly early on in the hike. The last article of clothing that I'm going to be wearing, I believe this is the last. Yeah, pretty much this would be the pre-sip pant, and again, this is just a shell. It is a waterproof or water-resistant shell, and I'll be wearing this on the colder, rainier, windier days if necessary. And I will have something underneath. I'll have my lining, my polyester lining underneath, which it's worked in the past. The next thing that I want to talk about as far as clothing would be my sleeping layers and my little extras or accessories that I'm going to use on the Appalachian Trail. First up are my mitten gloves. I'll call them the mitten gloves right here, and these are fleece. They're just a thin fleece. I believe I got these from Z-Packs, and they cover me up nicely, but I can use my fingers if necessary, and whoop, also can use my thumb. And that comes in very handy. The rain portion of that would be these Z-Packs mitts, and I can't remember them offhand what the name of them are, but I would put these up over the gloves and it would create a rain shell for me. But they're super ultra lightweight. I do have a balaclava. I opt for a balaclava instead of just like a neck warmer because it already fits me. I've worn this several times out skiing, probably 100 times out skiing, and it fits nice and loose, so I don't feel constricted with this on. But this will add a layer of heat for me while I am out on the trail. For sleeping, well, let's get to sleeping in a minute. I do have a second pair of underwear, and ones, which I wear and ones because they're cheap and I've been wearing them for 6 years on the trail and I love them and they do fine. But as far as my my socks, this is my second pair of socks, And because this one's tan, this is my sleeping sock. So these do not get worn while I'm hiking because I don't want them to get wet and then have my feet get cold in the middle of the night. I do have my Smart Wool tights, and these have kept me warm on plenty of nights already. So they're going to continue to do that. And I really felt like I wanted to trade these out for something a little lighter, but I also know that these do the trick. And when I did weigh a second pair of tights, they weighed the same. They felt like they were lighter, but they're both 9 ounces, I believe. Which brings me up to a point that I don't want to miss out on that. All of the gear that I'm listing here is in my description with links to it. I also will put my lighter pack, my lighterpack.com, the whole list. I'll put a copy of that. I do have some like a to-do list at the bottom of my lighter pack list, as well as a bunch of people's names, so I'm not going to include that, but I'll make a copy of it and share that with you. And that includes pricing or what I paid for it, the weight of each item, and a couple other things, right? So, and then my top is just a standard this is Realtree. It's just a lightweight poly top that I've used in the past, and I really enjoy it. And like I said, if it's too cold for this stuff, then I'll wear my puffy jacket, and that will do for my clothing currently. So we're going to talk about a few more items before we talk about my big four. One of the items is the Nilo Fume liner, which is right here, and it's awful crinkly, and I put this inside of my bag so that everything stays nice and dry. In my demo at the end of, after the crinkling, in my demo at the end of this, I'm going to not include it, but this is what I will use when I'm out in the trail. It just makes it a little faster. Hilltop packs. This is what I'm going to put my clothing in. Primarily, I'm going to be putting my sleeping clothing and extra socks, extra things, as well as maybe trying to fit one of my jackets in here. I also might just use some plastic bags to put maybe like a trash bag for the bigger items of the clothing, but just my sleepy time clothes will go in this bag. Then, of course, I have my food bag, which I'm not going to fill up tonight, but that will include all of my food. I have my little hygiene, my little toothpaste, toothbrush, and I'm sure I'll rip through a half a dozen toothbrushes, but I'm fine with that. Then my bear bag, bear hanging kit, some LMNT electrolytes. Everybody's talking about these and sponsors. They're all sponsored by them. I do have a link. It's an Amazon link. I do receive probably a nickel every time you buy some of this. But that's pretty much what goes in my food bag, as well as my stove and my kit. Okay, so I've shown all this before. I do have another link with a video that I did on my stove and my cook set, so you can check that one out. I have my night light. That is a Nightcore NU25. A lot of people are wearing these. I'm sure you've seen them around. They're fairly inexpensive, $20, $25 for them. And they give 3 different settings. There's a bright, brighter, and then a red or infrared, I believe. And that just prevents you from blinding your friends when you're in camp. But good night light. This is a rechargeable one, which I'll see how that goes. I don't believe, maybe it has a battery. Might have some batteries in here as a backup, but I'm not too sure. I'll leave a link in the description below. You can check that one out. My dirt saw deuce, as well as my starter sample of toilet paper. And this has its own plastic bag right now. We'll see how that one goes. My emergency kit. Basically, I have just a few of the starter, get started items, some Tylenol, some Neosporin, and let's say some Band-Aids, KT tape, some antiseptic wipes, just some of the basics just to get started. Did I also say Tylenol? I have Tylenol. I can't take anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen because I'm taking Coumadin or warfarin as a blood thinner, so I have to uh, keep an eye on any anti-inflammatories that I might take during my hike. So with that said, I will also have a like a Coumadin INR machine. What that means is it will measure my blood. I have to prick my skin, kind of like people who do the glucose measurements, but I'll be doing that probably once a week to make sure that my INR or my blood is not too thin while I'm hiking. And I don't know why I'm telling you that, but that's basically going to have another item that I have to carry. I have my electronics bag. I will be doing all of my videoing from my phone, no fancy camera. I do have a selfie stick, which is right over here, which is the only electronics outside of the bag currently. But this selfie stick basically is lightweight. It's, I think, 5.3 ounces, and it's just a nice, easy one. And it also is a tripod stand in case you want to use that. So that's part of my electronics. I do have a power bank. I have several of the cords that I'm going to be using on the trail, as well as the cord that helps to charge my flex tail, which gets me to my first item of my big four. So my big four consists of the Durston Kakwa 55 liter pack. Because I'm a smaller, shorter guy, I actually have the small size from a torso standpoint, and that is therefore 52 liters, not 55. And I believe if you get the larger torso, it's 56 liters or something thereabouts. So this is what I'm using, the Kakwa 55. My sleeping pad is the Big Agnes Repeat SL. I went with the 25 by 72. It is wider. It's a 4.2 R value as far as the heat capacity for it. And I really like this. It's an insulated pad. It's a little heavier than most. You can get a Nemo or some other brands that are much lighter weight, but I went with a higher R value for kind of bigger bang for my buck. I believe I got it on sale last year at like $90. They normally go for into the hundreds. And so that's what I'm going to be using for that. In order to blow that up, I do have this flex tail. It's kind of loud, but I did a video comparing me breathing or blowing up my pad by myself manually versus using the Big Agnes sack or the flex tail. And I believe this, I actually blew it up faster manually than I think that I was able to do it with this, but I might be wrong. You'll have to check that video out just to remind me. But the FlexTail does a good job. I'll use this in camp. If it's too late at night, I'm not going to use this. I'll just find another way. I don't want to bother people while I'm out on the trail. I am using a ZenBivy 25-degree quilt. A lot of people have commented that 25 is kind of the save your life temperature, and it's mainly will keep me warm at 30, 35 degrees. I've tried it out several times, and one of the times it was around 30 degrees, and I was plenty warm. Um, I didn't feel like I needed a lot of extra clothing. I actually I had the foot box closed, and I was able to sleep really well. So I'm not too concerned with that. However, I do have other options. I have a North Face one or one bag. It's like a 3-in-1, and that has a kind of a top section quilt component. I might throw that in as an extra if I feel like I need it. Otherwise, I'm going to make it to the either I believe it's the NOC or one of the early stops, and maybe I can add a liner. And I understand with the liner, that's not a quilt, so it's kind of more like a mummy bag, but for the short term, I think I can use that and get away with it. And even though I lose some of the freedoms from the ZenBivy, but you got to do what you got to do when you get out there, right? So the last thing that I'll talk about, I believe, is my X-Mid Pro 2. This is uh, a trekking pole tent, the Durston X-Mid Pro 2, and I've used this on several nights. I absolutely love it. I do feel that the first few nights out, I'll have to continue to get used to it. Because it's a trekking pole tent, I went with the heavier trekking poles, and yes, that might offset some of the weight, but most of the day I'll be using my trekking poles, so I'm not one for really carrying a trekking pole, but we'll see how my legs feel. But anyhow, so that's what I'm using here, and what I am missing is my Be Free Catadine. Right now I'm hydrating that because it's been a while since I used it, so I need to basically keep it moist so that it doesn't dry out, because I want to be able to use it right away. I am going to show you how I put all this together. So if you haven't already, share this, like it, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time.